Hi everyone, welcome to a second video from a Taskwarrior series. And today I want to show you a little bit more how to integrate Taskwarrior and Neovim. So this is a series of probably 10 videos. The video that I recorded earlier was just introduction and showing you what Taskwarrior can do. I am not planning on doing Taskwarrior basics. There's plenty of good material that you can find yourself, but this is just more about showing you possible workflows that I have and giving you some ideas how you can use Taskwarrior. So the introduction video is done, and today we are focusing on the Neovim integration and specifically how you can integrate comments in code or other files and tasks. Follow-up videos, I will talk about reminders and follow-ups, time tracking, syncing external issues, and other things. Taskwarrior is very powerful task management system, project management system that gives you a lot of flexibility how to configure it and make it all fitting to your workflow. So what we are going to do today, we will integrate Taskwarrior and Neovim and other tools together to achieve the to-do conversion. So what I mean by to-do, those are typically comments that you leave for yourself or other developers somewhere in code, and they are project specific or repository specific. So you might have a comment like to-do or hack or info or other label, and then those comments are often forgotten. So you see a lot of comments like add unit tests and refactor, and those comments never get actioned. And part of this is that they are never captured as a task. Unless you actively look at the code base, you're not going to find them. So this workflow solves this specific problem. However, you can also use it for other purposes, since in its core, what we are doing, we are essentially taking any comment. It can be Markdown file comment, it can be comment in Go code or Rust or anywhere, and we convert it to a task. So even if you're not a programmer, but you may be writing prose in Markdown or doing some other form of working with files and want to leave yourself a note, then this workflow will also help you. So at the end, in this specific context, Taskwarrior and taskwarrior-tui, which is a nice kind of terminal user interface for Taskwarrior that I mentioned in previous video, they become a central repository of all to-dos that stem from the comments. So what are the prerequisites for this specific workflow? We need to have, obviously, Taskwarrior. We need to have a plugin for Taskwarrior called taskopen. I'll talk about this later in a moment. We need also something in Neovim so that we can use Lua code and interact with tasks and create them and so on. I typically use tmux for all kinds of other automation, like showing a session per task or similar kind of nice to haves. And taskwarrior-tui is just my program of choice to view all my tasks. So those are the base prerequisites that we need in order to get started. So here we can see how the typical flow looks like. So I'll guide you through this flow, and then we're going to dig into various components of it. So first of all, a user creates a to-do comment in Neovim. Let's imagine it's a Go code. We have a Go code file, and we want to comment and add a task to ourselves. Through a special key binding, in my case it's Ctrl-T, can be anything, we trigger Neovim module to convert the comment to task. Once this happens, Lua module, Lua code talks to Taskwarrior, and Taskwarrior creates a task for us. Optionally, this is obviously all synced to taskwarrior-tui. It's not really synced because taskwarrior-tui just uses the task database to display the task, so it's already there. And then as a user at some later stage, I want to open this specific file through my task. So I have a list of tasks, and again, you will see this in a moment. You have a list of tasks, and then I can open these tasks using the taskopen plugin, and then it teleports me right to the line where the comment is. So that's how those two things are bound together. When I'm opening this, to make it a little bit more manageable and nicer, I am launching a dedicated tmux session that holds the file that I'm working with. I can work with the file just if it's a code, I can run LSP, I can do whatever I need to do there and work with a normal flow. And then the tmux session opens a new session and opens in Neovim the same file. When I'm done with adding unit tests or implementing something that the comment tells me to do, I can remove the comment either from Neovim with another key binding. It will remove the comment from Neovim and associated task. It will mark it as completed. Or I can also just close it and remove the task from taskwarrior-tui, and this will also remove the comment line in the file. Once this is done, in case of Neovim, the Lua code marks task as done, and then Taskwarrior marks it as done as well, and the task is completed. So let's see how this could look like in a typical workflow. So here I have just a simple script. It's one of the scripts I'm using to generate tmux sessions for my videos. And let's imagine that I want to create here a to-do comment. So I have a binding Control A, which gives me a to-do in my GitHub username. And I can do something, maybe add description to function. That's probably a good idea. We just don't want this. We want to get rid of this guy, and I like my comments to be from lowercase letters. And then I have to go into insert mode, and Control T gives me at the bottom, you can see, asks me to enter a project name. So I'm going to enter a project name test, and then asks me to enter additional tags. So maybe here will be description or desk for description of the function. I do this, and this is completed, and I can also mark this as actual comment. So this kind of to do. All right, so that's what we did, what happened, and with this code now we can switch to actually Taskwarrior session. So here I can switch to task. I already have it here, and you can see at the very bottom we have this test here, and this little arrow points where we actively are, and this is just add a description for the function. So this task is created, and it's bound to the session here. I can close this file. So the session will remain active, but I close the file. And let's imagine that I want to open this file at some later stage. So I can hit 1, which is a key binding that is configured for me. You will see this later, how I am using taskopen from taskwarrior-tui. But I am simply calling taskopen, and taskopen will detect what's inside. And I'm going to show you this real quick. So here you can see the line called Neovim line. So Neovim line, the number of the line where the comment is located, and then the file where the comment is located. So this is how taskopen recognizes where to open it. So when I hit 1, you could see that we are back at the same file, and I'm going to add back the session names. So we have generate tmux sessions. This is the name of the file. That's how I generate the temporary tmux session for the file. And you can see here my comment is right here. So I can do something with the file, and then I can essentially delete the comment. If I want to delete the comment, I'm done with it. I can do leader DT, and you can see that there is a Zenity dialog popping out saying that the comment has been removed. Someone left a comment that this could be Neovim dialog. Absolutely true. This could be a Neovim dialog, but I'm using Zenity in other similar workflow as well, which is just a Zenity dialog. So it tells me acknowledge, and this task at the bottom, you see some debug output. This task should now be removed from taskwarrior-tui. When I hit enter, you see that the comment is also removed. I have to reload the file because Neovim detected that something removed it other than the user. And now when we go back to our task, so I actually can close this session. Once I close this session, we are back into the session, and you can see the task is gone. It's no longer on the list, and this is now in the completed tasks. So that was a quick demo how we could do this, how we could use it. So now we're gonna dig a little bit deeper and see how it works. So first, it's important to understand annotations. So Taskwarrior annotations are simply a way to add some additional notes to your tasks. This is just a free text that has a format of date, then space, minus, minus, space, and whatever text you put there. It can also optionally has a label, but I am not using it. So it's very simple, kind of a log of annotations that you can do. And we are leveraging exactly that. So you could see that here is an example of annotation from some random task. And you can just use them as simply annotations, just look what you logged into your tasks, or you can have an URL here that taskopen will open in a default browser. You can have your default, your custom regex like we did with Neovim, and it will then open Neovim on a specific line. So you can have this kind of open actions that are very versatile, that are based on annotations. You can have any number of annotations, and the separator is, as I mentioned, this two minuses. So let's talk a little bit about taskopen. So taskopen started as a very simple project to open URLs from annotations, and it was originally a bash script. So this feature, you can imagine, is something that is very useful. If you add a URL to your task as an annotation, then you obviously want to quickly open it without just getting inside of the task, editing it, copying the URL. So that was the first need. And then it evolved to allow you to open anything. So you can actually open a file, like in our case in Neovim, you can open URL, you can trigger a command, and there's all kinds of things that you can do with it now as it opens. It has also very versatile mechanism of what you open and how many things you open and so on. You can add a notes also to a file. This will be a separate video where you can actually combine, add an Obsidian note to your file so that when you need to have more context in the task, you can essentially attach an existing node or a new node. And I'll show you this workflow in some later video as well. So important to understand that taskopen gives us the possibility to have arbitrary actions that are configured on annotations or also on other elements. You can trigger those open actions on annotations, you can trigger them on attributes, on user-defined attributes, and more, which makes it very, very versatile. So let's look a little bit deeper how this is implemented from the Neovim point of view. So I'm going to see, here is the Neovim. The session has been renamed, that's why it didn't work. So Neovim is quite big module at this point, but only a few functions do what we want. So if you look here, it's 227 lines, but we really are interested in this first function. So create and update tasks. We are working with the current line. and we are checking whether there's those keywords. Those are, by the way, keywords that are typically in those to-do comments. I have some custom logic that removes my GitHub username, and essentially at the end, it interacts with task by calling this task command, task add, with parameters and additionally tag and description. So although it's a little bit of code, it's really simple what it does. At the end here, when the task is created, it annotates the task with this Nvim line, and it inputs the line where the comment is and the file name, the path to a file. And it annotates the existing task with this information. And this is how the taskopen plugin will know what to do with it, thanks to this Nvim line tag. Okay, let's close this. And one more is this, task as done. This is the reverse, essentially. So it, again, strips this, my GitHub username, and it essentially calls task done. So it says task, and it finds the task by description, and then marks it as done. So that's the logic from the Neovim side. This is a simple Neovim module. If you haven't watched my videos about Neovim, I have a whole playlist also explaining how to build your custom modules and how to get started with it. But this is the Neovim side that essentially interacts with Taskwarrior, validates data, cleans it up a little bit. All right. So now let's look briefly at taskopen. Taskopen has its own configuration file, taskopen.rc. And here you can see on line 11 where we have actions. This action is exactly what tells taskopen what to do with annotations. So first of all, it targets the annotations. It could target attributes, UDA, tags, and so on. Label is something you can add to annotation. Again, I'm not using it. But regex is how the annotation text is being parsed. So I am actually capturing this whole Nvim line. So start from Nvim line, then we have colon, then we have any number of digits, another colon, and then will be free text, which is essentially the path to a file. And then once this is detected, then taskopen will use this taskopen line script, and it will provide a file, which is a built-in Taskwarrior variable pointing to a file where we are currently triggering this from, and task description, which is how you can later find the task in the file. And this script is essentially creating the tmux session that I mentioned earlier. It's grabbing the task description, and it's essentially makes it so that you switch to this session and open a file right where it should be. So you're creating this new session. You can do all kinds of crazy things with it. For me, it just opens a temporary tmux session that is being closed once everything is done. So that's how taskopen works with this specific tag or custom tag Nvim line. And let's look at Taskwarrior config. So that was taskopen. It's a plugin configuration, and it's something that we need to have in order for Taskwarrior to understand how to handle those annotations starting with Nvim line. So here, Taskwarrior config, this is a configuration for Taskwarrior as a program, and this specific part is configuration for taskwarrior-tui. So you've seen me showing taskwarrior-tui, which is just essentially a way to display tasks in the taskwarrior-tui. And here you can see the script that is bound to key number 1 is taskopen annotation. And this is a very simple script. It essentially takes whatever task, because Taskwarrior automatically passes the task UID, and open it. So taskopen will just open a task ID, and then depending what annotations are there, what it detects, it would handle them as we've seen in the taskopen script. So you can see other scripts. I'll talk about them later in later videos, but that's how you can have your own shortcuts in Taskwarrior-tui and execute a lot of cool functionality. And there's only 9 of them, but you can actually have a lot of functionality under this number 1, because you can add annotations or react to attributes. So you will essentially have a list of things what taskopen should do when it encounters different annotations or attributes. All right. So that was it. For next video, as I mentioned, we will do reminders and follow-ups. This is very useful feature for me. I was able to incorporate it in my daily workflow, the integration with Neovim and Taskwarrior, and I am using it constantly, not only through creating to-dos, but also other integrations where Neovim opens various things and like adds nodes, Obsidian nodes, and so on. So all the files, as usual, will be in video description and in my dot files if you want to grab it. It's a little bit do-it-yourself. I'm thinking of encapsulating it in a little bit more of a plugin form from the Neovim side to distribute it a bit better, but I don't know anyone else that uses this functionality, so I'm just keeping it for now only for me. Let me guys know if you're interested in using it, and if the workflow I showed you resonates with you, this is something that you imagine doing as well. And I will be happy to package it in a little bit more reusable way. All right, so that was it. A quick show how we can integrate Neovim and comments with Taskwarrior. Hope you liked it. As always, let me know in the comments. What are your workflows? What do you use Taskwarrior for? Or if you haven't used it, do you plan on using it? I find it one of the, if not the best task management system I've tried, and I've done, you know, Jira, Azure DevOps, GitHub, GitLab, you know, all kinds of weird task systems, most of them proprietary or web-based. And here I have absolutely 100% full control over everything. I can have automation that fits my workflow, and it's been really great. All right, that's it. As always, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.